Hey, I'm Jason McClaren with the Leadership Loading Podcast. Welcome today, my guest, Owen Marcus. Owen is the CEO and founder of MELD, Men's Emotional Leadership Development. So, Owen, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jason.
Yeah. So let's start off. What did you do before MELD, and tell us a little bit about your background.
Um, Short story is I had a roommate that was an attorney that given up his law practice to study somatics or how to work with the body, and he convinced me to try it. And he was a good litigator. He argued his case, uh, and I couldn't refuse. So this was back in the late 70s, and I got into it and started a integrated medical clinic down in Scottsdale, Arizona, and that evolved to doing a lot of work with elite athletes and a lot of stressed out professionals. Ended up in North Idaho, and before I left for Idaho back in the mid '90s, I realized that I healed some things in myself, a lot of old stress and trauma, but I wasn't really succeeding in my relationships. And I thought maybe working with men would help that. And I resisted. I thought, well, maybe that's a good reason to do it. I started my first men's group or a free peer-to-peer group out of my clinic in 1995. And then 20 years ago, I sort of redesigned the model of groups and really men's work and brought in somatics. And we could talk about what that is. And I saw how effective that was for not only for me, but for men. And that led into a documentary film about the work, a group that's still going strong 20 years later in three businesses, and a lot of exposure on national media, and working with leaders, entrepreneurs specifically, but a lot of that, some special op teams, and guys that are not just stressed out, but at a point where they're going, okay, I can succeed and I can work harder, but I think there must be a better way. I want to learn a better way.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the listeners are former military and veterans and first responders, and I think we deal with the same things, especially when we transition out of our military career. We're kind of lost, right? We've had that camaraderie and that discipline for years. Even if you only did 4 years or, you did 20 years, it's still a whole different mindset once you transition out. And I think a lot of people don't know how to deal with that, especially if they're trying to leverage that time they had in the military to get a leadership role. So, um, kind of going back, are you a physician by trade or lawyer? I kind of
No, I'm
missed that
neither.
part.
My undergraduate degree was in psych. I thought about becoming a psychologist, and I realized that a lot of them were more screwed up than I was. And even though I did a lot of postgraduate training and some leading psychotherapies, I've never become a licensed therapist. I guess you could call me a coach. But I do train therapists and psychiatrists in this work I do. And I'm not a physician. I've had physicians work for me in my clinic, and I've certainly trained them. The last thing I am is a lawyer, even though I have many as a friend. But I think what you said is so true. When I work with these vets, they come out of serving and they really miss having a community. And this is what they see with our groups. And we've had men in our groups that said, if I didn't find your group, I would have killed myself. One was because of the trauma, but also because, as you said, they lost their community. And I think vets understand more than anyone how we're hardwired to have community and we need it. And you know probably better than me. That's why a lot of vets will re-up, is because they miss their community. And 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 that's one of the draws that vets have had to this work is not that this is a somatic part, but I can find a community of men that might not be just vets, but I can be real with.
Yeah, and I think there's several nonprofit organizations out there uh, that have, that type of camaraderie. Um, I think historically they've kind of evolved around alcohol. It's usually like a bar or something like that. Um, those are kind of trending away, I see, but a lot of the new groups are physical fitness related, or they're outdoor enthusiast related. So you're getting out and you're doing stuff with like-minded people. So is that kind of what led you to start MELD?
Yeah, I was a founder for the previous company, Everyman, and I got to practice a lot of what I teach. That was an unhealthy environment, and my body didn't like it. So I took all the courses I created in my core team and created MELD close to 2 years ago. Yeah, and what we really did with MELD was we brought in the science of, physiology and community, and it's all science based. And there's been studies done on our work that's been published in some big journals because, you know, I think what's missing in a lot of self-help stuff is not only the communal part, but also the science that's based on the physiology of the body and how the body deals with stress or doesn't deal with stress and trauma.
So would you say Meld's mostly online community? You guys do most everything
We
online?
Well, we have three parts. We got the online, which we have a couple different offerings. We have the one-to-one work. We have and we support free groups, which is still my thing that I really encourage guys to do. So we don't necessarily set up the groups as we used to, but we train guys to succeed in these groups and we help train the groups. And then we have live retreats, which is sort of the top of what we give them in because, you know, the virtual stuff I found is more effective than I would have thought, but there's nothing better than like our 4-day retreat where we dive deep into this work and it's not just a retreat, but what we do is we train men in these skills, and because they're skills that we're hardwired for, when the training's done well, it doesn't take much for a man to learn it.
All right. And I know on y'all's website talks about living into a new model. And I think as we've been talking about transitioning, the skills you're talking about, is that something that they need to bring with them, or y'all teach those skills there?
We teach the skills. We've had guys come in literally off the street that their wife sent them and they didn't even know why they were there. They go, this is a men's retreat. I didn't know what this was. And 4 days later, they were really proficient. Yeah, we have these skills in their physiology. It's just that we've gotten really good at the stress skills and not the co-regulation or the down-regulation skills. And again, I find that when we work with the vets, uh, they might be traumatized, but they also at least understand the importance of learning these skills, and they realize, in their teams, when they succeed is when they're applying these skills.
Yeah, I think just as myself, when I get together with other people that are like-minded, or as long as I try not to pigeonhole myself, with exactly people like me. Like, um, so my full-time job, I work in healthcare administration. So I go to healthcare related events, but I don't go to the ones that are exactly my service line. I go to different service line functions so that I'm able to kind of spread my knowledge. So are you seeing that with your groups where you get everybody's working to the same goal, but you have all the different mindsets that kind of help everybody reach that goal?
Yeah, I mean, on our team, we have physicians, we have uh, entrepreneurs, psychologists, psychiatrists, and then, all the men that we attract is a broad range. They tend to be, we don't get a lot of guys in the 20s, but they tend to be a little older. And yeah, they're usually guys that you're going, all right, again, I've had some success, but I want something better out of life. And I can work harder, but they're going, maybe that's not going to give me more of what I want.
Yeah, I think Go Here is the producer of this podcast, and so that's kind of what we wanted to do, is help veterans, first responders, and those kind of industries get into these type of organizations or in these type of programs. So I think that's a real good thing that maybe we can work with you guys on the future. And I saw also you guys do couples coaching or couples workshops.
Yeah, so my partner is a couples therapist. She's actually from Israel, and so she knows about stress, and she goes over to Israel and volunteers and works with all these first responders and vets, and with their trauma, and particularly with couples. So we do couples retreats, we do couples intensives and workshops, and in many ways, it's a lot of what I do with guys because uh, you know, a couple often, it's not succeeding because they're in a stress loop, and we not just give them a model in terms of, okay, this is what's happening. It's really not you. It's not even your relationship. You just, you've taken everything you learned or didn't learn as a kid, and, and it's unfortunately impacting your relationship. Let's give you a better model, but more importantly, let's teach you some skills you didn't get so that rather than going at each other, you can go for connection because I think most people know this, and the research supports that when we can connect with someone, we're co-regulating. And so, I'm connecting with you, Jason, you relax, I feel relaxed, and the nonverbals support that. And, we have this coherence that really fosters any kind of relationship.
Yeah, I think with men and myself being one, um, and I'm in my second marriage, so I see those stresses that we go through, and especially being a service member or first responder going through, being gone a lot and or working long shifts and just all the things that we have to face that most normal white collar 9 to 5ers don't have to face. I've seen what that does to marriages, and luckily, I have a great wife now. We're doing well. We're on, I think, 14 years now.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so
That
yeah,
as well.
it's so I mentioned that to somebody the other day. They said that's a long time for people now. So,
Yeah,
uh,
it is.
uh, but yeah, so yeah, I think that's all good stuff. So, um, Owen, if you had a new leader, say you ran into somebody in the street or at the coffee shop, obviously you'd tell them to join MELD, but what else would you tell them as a leadership tip?
Uh, Use your physiology. We have a company that we sort of spun off in MELD that we work with businesses and organizations, and that's the core of it. And so I created this little formula called the ROC formula, ROC. We slow down to relax, that's the R. We as we slow down our physiology and our breathing and just being aware of our stress slows us down. We generally just open up and become vulnerable to our own experience, but we become safe to others because again, the physiology that and the unconscious and nonverbal messages that we're sending out tells other people that we're safe and relaxed. So it gets us into the sea of connection. And so we just naturally do that as we, slow down our physiology. And that's something that guys can understand, but we haven't ever been trained how to do.
Definitely. Um, you talked earlier about the retreat you guys have. I know y'all have one coming up in February 2026. Is there anything that anyone interested in that would have to do before they could sign up to go to that? Do they need to
No, you
like
can
be a
just sign
member?
up, but we're more than happy to talk to any man about it, to explain what it is. And really, essentially what we do is, to get over 100-page manual that we don't teach everything in it, but basically what we're doing is taking the man and the group through this sort of MELD method where I just saw over the years of working with people that there's a certain arc or change that we go through when we really change, and we just break that down and teach the steps. And then not, again, we're not just teaching it didactically, we're really teaching it experientially so you get it in your body. So when you leave, you don't just leave, we're having a good time and change, you actually leave with a set of skills that you can apply at home in your relationships, but also men are applying them in our work. I mean, we had one of the guys in the last training was a ER doc that was actually a professor at a medical school, and he just loved this stuff because he saw, as any first responder would see, that there's a lot of stress in that profession, and how do you deal with that? And then how do you, go home when you're not all stressed out and you can actually connect with your wife and not really disconnected?
Yeah, I've been to lots of workshops where they give you a book and then you kind of go through everything for the 8 hours or 40 hours, however long it is, and then you get back to your house and it goes on the bookshelf and you don't really see it again. So it's good to know that you guys are instilling those skills for everyday use.
And a big part of that is, having a follow-up and integration because, you can get this, you can get the book, you can get the skills, but we need, that community and guys really open up and then, they form a group and we support that group.
Awesome. So if people are interested in learning more, how can they reach out to you guys?
Through MELD, which is MELD dot community. So MELD dot community, and yeah, they can check out what we do. They can sign up for a consultation, and we're more than glad to talk to any guy.
All right. Well, Owen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jason.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership inspired.